Welcome to Agent Tactics. In today's tactics class, we have a YouTuber who just started in early 2024. So I'm hearing this myth of if you start your YouTube channel now, it's way too saturated, you'll never see success. And our guest speaker, Seth Koppel, is one of those YouTubers that breaks that myth. In just a little bit over a year time, Seth has accomplished so much in YouTube, including in the last month, 124,000 views. I'm going to show you those views and what he's getting from these different views that are coming in through his channel. Spoiler alert, it's a lot of high quality leads. Leads like this that send him 5-page long text messages that show a lot of personal information. It took me like 5 minutes to black out all the information that's on here. And these are the types of leads that Seth is getting on a weekly basis. In fact, he's signed multiple buyers that are in $1 million plus range here in the Austin, Texas metro, which is a metro known to have a lot of YouTubers that are already established. So in this class, we're going to get through everything that Seth's gone through over the last year and a half for YouTube, and I'm excited to bring him up. Welcome to Agent Tactics, Seth. How we doing?
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much. This is exciting.
Yes, very exciting. Always love talking with you, Seth. I know we talk almost every single week about YouTube, and I've built you up, Seth, because you've done so much in 15 months. But now I'm going to tear you down in a second. Before I do, I want to mention this is Agent Tactics. We do this on a weekly basis at 10 a.m. Central on Thursdays. And we do it just to provide value back to agents. Rising tide raises all ships. It's something I learned very early on as an agent. I always thought it was going to be cutthroat, and I met people that were collaborating and growing together. One of those people was Jeremy Knight. So my name on here is Jeremy Knight. I'm logged into a Zoom account. I never feel like changing the name. My name's Rod Sahu. I'm a realtor in Austin, Texas. And I saw Jeremy Knight's channel as a consumer building my own home with me and my wife. And I decided to get into real estate because I thought I could do something similar to him. So big inspiration. And that's why when Jeremy travels, I tend to do agent tactics and love giving back when I can. So now, Seth, tearing you down for a second, start off with how you started the months leading up to YouTube. What was going on with your
Hmm.
business? Were you always great at social media? Like, start there.
Right. Okay, so I've been in real estate a long time. Now 19 years, but going back to say 2023, okay, so 17 years in the business, many good years, gratefully, worked very hard, but more in the traditional ways that a lot of us veteran realtors, and there's different models back then as well. But for me, it was, you know, staying in touch with my past clients, providing them value over the years, having events, sharing valuable information with them on a regular basis. And I still try to do that. But what happened in 2023, I think it was kind of like maybe threefold. One, you had pretty much nationally, but especially in Austin, our market was just very weak, and so people got used to their properties going up, like, every week it was worth more, and you could sell a home in 5 minutes, and then it was easy for people to move up, move up, move up. And so many of my clients for years were move up clients. So you all of a sudden had a situation where their values were dropping, and at the same time interest rates were higher. So these local people who were my bread and butter, it didn't make logical sense for them to move. They were going to move and pay 2 to 3x on their interest rate. Just I would literally tell them, like, yeah, you shouldn't move. Like, I'm the worst realtor ever. I was just like, you should absolutely not buy a house. you know. But so there was that. But it was more than that. I think we also had, and we're still dealing with, ultimately the long-term ramifications of this whole, realtor settlement thing. I think we haven't really seen the full effects of that since we're in a very much a buyer's market here. And then we also had the idea that marketing had changed. What I saw, the people who were gaining market share were doing social media. And, I was on social media, but I really didn't know what I was doing. I was just like, oh, I'll share this, I'll share that. It was no strategy. There was no rhyme or reason to what it was. And it probably got me a few clients here or there who saw something, but overall, it was not an effective strategy. And from 2022 to 2023, my business was down 70%. And man, I just really started to wonder if my time in real estate was coming to an end and it was time for me to do something different. Because, who was really good at social media? It was millennials or, people in their early 30s who, I was not going to do dance videos. Nobody wanted to see that. I wasn't going to do it anyway. So in any case, oh, okay. I got one taker. um, so I was like, starting to think like, what do I do next? I wasn't really worried because thankfully, been very blessed, worked very hard over many years, saved up some money. So I wasn't like freaking out. But, when you are doing something for that long and you're thinking of a career change, it's kind of a big deal. So I was stressed in the sense of the change. But then at that moment, right when I was really contemplating all this, Raj Sahu sent me an email wanting to do a video on my listing. And I thought, well, great, because I'm not getting any showings and, I need exposure for my seller. And so, I looked at it a little. I was like, okay, great, let's do it. And then I saw the video and asked a few questions and realized Raj hadn't been in the business that long. And I thought, okay, that's interesting. And he had sold like 53 homes in 1 year that were all new construction at a really good price point. And I was just like, I've never heard of an agent 2 or 3 years in the business putting up numbers like that. Like that's unheard of. And so I reached out to Raj again. I was like, look, I really want to meet with you and learn more about what you're doing, and that's when I decided, okay, I need to join Real. I met Ian, I met Jeremy, went to a couple of events, and I was like, this is where I need to be. So
That's
anyway,
great.
besides that, yeah, so that's the answer on that.
Yeah, absolutely. First things first, drop a one in the chat if you're live here. If you can relate to that, many great years, but then a couple bad years, and you're wondering what you should do with your business. Can anybody relate to the ups and downs of real estate? Drop a one in the chat. Also, really appreciate the vulnerability there, Seth. There's a lot of egos in our business. We all know that. And I appreciate you sharing that because I know a lot of people want to defend their actions when they make a drastic change when you should probably embrace like the failure, right? Because everything starts with a failure, and then that's where success that's what that's a breeding ground for success, right? So I'm seeing a ton of ones in the chat. Tom, I appreciate all those ones because I relate to that as well. So Seth, I'm going to share your channel here in a second, but quick disclaimer, Seth's getting a ton of views, so I don't think it's going to affect him as much, but I don't want to see 50 new realtor subscribers to his channel because that can change the algo a little bit. So please do not subscribe to his channel. Feel free to check it out, but try to avoid subscribing. But we're just going to show it to you. And I don't think you need to see Seth's videos. It's a lot of home tours, which I'll show you here in a second. But while I'm sharing this, Seth, we've now understood kind of where you're at. You didn't have any experience in social media. You thought it was for a different generation. You decided to embrace it just by pure luck. I wanted to do a home tour of one of your listings,
Yeah.
and I was doing a lot of listings in that area. I didn't care who was the listing agent. I just wanted to tour them, and we had chatted, and then we had put together a plan. So talk to me about like that first 3 months of YouTube, like struggles, successes, everything.
So I would ask it this way in the chat. Here's the riddle. How do you start up on YouTube and have an amazing first video? Like, what's the answer to that? How do you do that? Yeah, there's no answer. It's not going to be great. Your first video will suck. Your second video hopefully will suck slightly less. And so, that's the main point. Like you have to do it and it's not going to be great. You have to push through it and try to make it good, right? Of course, try to make it. But the bottom line is it's not going to be. And then what Raj, was regularly coaching me, it was like, okay, each video, just try to get 1% better. Of course, in the beginning, you're going to get more than 1% better with each video. But now, like even now, I constantly think about it. And, I have the benefit of working with Raj and Ian and other agents who are in here in Austin with Real and even outside of Austin. And I reach out and I brainstorm ideas and we bounce ideas off each other literally like several times a week. We're talking about, what do I do? I had this experience. What do you think of this? And, from small things to big strategy shifts in the strategy. So the point is, they sucked. The first videos are terrible. If you watch this one that says got views, it will just, it's terrible. It's a terrible video. I didn't know what to say, and so the bottom line is you just have to be committed. And so when I started this and I saw what Raj was, his success, I said to myself, okay, I know this is not going to be easy. I know it's going to take a long time. And for that reason, I am going to commit to doing 3 videos a week for 18 months. I'm not going to evaluate this in 3 months to determine if I keep going. That's like, I know this is a marathon. I'm in mile 2 and I'm tired. So I'm going to quit. Like, that's not how you finish a marathon. You just decide you're doing it and you're going to do it and you're not going to evaluate. Now, evaluating how to improve it is one thing, but thinking about, is this worth doing? We know it's worth doing because we see success from it from many, many agents. You don't have to be any sort of special personality. You don't have to. I think when it finally shifted for me was when I stopped being so guarded and trying to, what's the word, like be appealing to the widest number of people. I think that was keeping me from being myself. And at some point I was just like, screw it. I'm just gonna be myself, and that has worked out. And who likes to watch my stuff is going to be different than pretty much every one of you. And everyone's going to have their own audience, people who connect with them, just like you do now. Like if you're gaining clients, you probably can look, if you have a bunch of clients over the years, what are some similar characteristics? Either it's demographic or, going back to my marketing days from a long time ago, it was like psychology wise, what is their mindset? What is their personality? There's certain things that people like, and there's a reason that certain type of people like you and like working with you. And of course, we all have others who got in there. And often those are the ones we didn't really enjoy working with for some reason, right? But the ones who these are my people. Like you have to figure out what that is, what you want to do. What do you want to spend your time doing? What type of properties do you want to spend your time if you're doing home tours? If you're doing something else, what do you want to spend your time sharing with people? How do you provide value to these people? And what are you passionate about? Because if I was showing, certain types of home, and I want to rag on any type of home, but that I didn't like, I might be able to fake it for a few minutes, but man, it's going to come through. People are going to, not be excited about me showing them, something I don't really care about, So, I don't think it's a question of, oh, everyone needs to do this kind of property and this kind of video. That's totally the wrong way to think about this. Like you have to look inward, think about what you love, what you want to do. And there's enough business out there for literally hundreds and hundreds of new YouTube channels, like thousands. I mean, so, again, to Raj's point, YouTube started in what year? Like 2006 or something like that. It's been around a long time, and so I started mine a year and a half ago, and, and of course it's going to evolve what you do. You don't have to have it all figured out from the start. You're not going to. I didn't. Like I started and I was just like, well, I guess I'll just do this. And, And then more and more, and I started gravitating to what I wanted to do.
That's such a good point. And what I think Seth is really alluding to is Seth lives in a master plan community in Austin, Texas. There's a ton of new construction around Austin, Texas. And in that master plan community, they're planning on building 10,000 homes there. Now, I've had about 10 to 15 closings a year for the last few years in Seth's community. Literally, I've had clients move in down the street from Seth who've reached out to me from YouTube and built a 5,000 square foot home from scratch. Okay. What's so interesting is Seth has all this inventory right in his community that he can just tap into and tour. But what Seth and I established fairly early is that if we do that, you're just going to be like everybody else. When that neighborhood took off, everybody started posting about Seth's neighborhood, Seth's neighborhood. He lives in that neighborhood. It would make sense for him to post about his neighborhood, but he pivoted to something else where he felt like was untapped that nobody else was getting into. And this is something that I think everybody should try to establish for themselves. And like Seth was mentioning, focus on what you're passionate about, because what Seth did pretty early on is he changed to a certain type of home tour that was a certain product that we didn't feel like that many people were into. And when he went into it, he realized he loved that type of property. Seth, can you get into that? And I'll share a little bit more on your screen. And by the way, I
Yeah.
want to give a disclaimer on this. If you get into this type of product like Seth, you're just going to be feeding his channel because now he's the dominant player for that type of property here around Austin. But my point in sharing this with you is I think you should find your own untapped market.
Yeah. I'm originally from Brooklyn, New York, and just the fact that I moved to Texas 21 years ago. My wife's a Texan. She thought I would last maybe 6 months and want to run back to New York. And the opposite completely over the years. Every year, I love this place more and more and more. And, you know, so at some point, I've just like, man, look at all this land. Look at all these beautiful, large acreage properties. And it's just incredible to me. I tour properties that I'm just like, wow, like some dude in New York is getting a crappy condo for the same price as this 12 acres and a house and a shop and whatever. I mean, it's just like that's crazy to me, and I understand, density and the benefits of a city. I'm from New York, but I just love open space and the Texas Hill Country, and so I ran with that, and definitely found a niche there. And what I would say is like we could probably between Raj and I and all of y'all, we could rattle off like 25
Yeah.
potential niches in like 60 seconds. Like there's so many. You don't have to literally go and copy anyone. My suggestion again is think about what you love, neighborhoods you love, types of properties you love, or topics. Like you could think, you know what, I want to talk about why people are moving to this neighborhood or what's bad, or do comparisons, or there's so many different things you could do. Something about, something you're passionate about. Because if you can do that, that is going to come through and you're going to be a good spokesperson to deliver that message.
Yeah.
If you're just trying to copy what someone else is doing, it's not going to land.
Can I
It's
throw
never going to
something
land.
in?
Go ahead, Tom.
So I'm on day 34 of a 90-day challenge, 90 videos in 90 days. And I started off by just because of Jeremy. There's two guys in the Bay Area where I'm just doing TikTok, which I never did TikTok. Anyway, I'm hearing you say all this stuff and I love it. My concern is people are going to not go out and do videos until they figure out their niche. Go out and do stuff and figure out what you like. And then you can trip and make mistakes and all this stuff when nobody's looking.
You're reading my mind, Tom, and that's exactly
Yeah.
what I was going to get into here. Where Seth, in the beginning, I just told him, get your feet with whatever is around you. Like just focus on that location. We did talk about like empty nesters, what is Seth relatable to? Because that relatability factor I think is important. And so he did some homes right around him, like Santa Rita Ranch. That's the community that he lives in. So he did this plan. It was right in his backyard practically. And I told him his videos are going to be terrible, but let's try to figure out what your niche is along the way. And I think a few months in, you could start to see he posted some acreage lots. This one in particular was empty and it took off. And I remember that day we got together for coffee and he said he loves that type of property because I told him, hey, you're going to start getting calls if you keep touring those. But hey, if that works and you want to tour those, you like touring those properties, you're passionate about it, that's going to come out in your content. And when I say your content, keep in mind, Seth's up to about 20 to 30-minute home tours. He posted a home tour the other day that was 40 minutes long. At the end of the video, he took a go-kart out through this acreage. The property had like zebras and giraffes and stuff. Seth loves doing that. And you can see it in his eyes. Like that's why people reach out to him. The people that want acreage and have passion, just like Seth, for those types of properties, guess who they reach out to when they think about these properties? Seth, right? And if you look and you keep going down his channel, I'll just go to most popular, you can start to see what Seth really leaned in on, right? Some of his most viewed videos, I mean, I don't even see a house in this thumbnail. It's just like a field with a road. And I remember when Seth was like, hey, I'm just going to post this as a thumbnail. What do you think? And I was like, go for it. Is that what your target audience wants to click on? And he said, yes, I think this relates to them. A big field with one road that kind of looks like a driveway through it. And I was like, go for it. And the video just goes like this. It just completely takes off. And we were so excited. And point is, in 2024, 2025, when the market's saturated, Seth comes in, finds a completely different buyer demographic, and he's getting more leads than I am. And I have over 2 million views. I started in 2021, and we're in the same exact market. And so I can't say this enough. If you get started, you find that untapped niche, this can really work for you. And Seth's done it really well. Seth, we've talked about like content strategy, and Tom's getting to a good point of like getting started. Talk about what you do when you arrive at a property, and talk about like the mechanics of like, what are you thinking about when you're taking the tour, and how do you do it in general?
Sure. So first thing, if the lights are off, I'm going through and turning the lights on. But what I'm also doing, even if the lights are on, is I'm wrapping my head around the property. What is special about this property? What can I, tease a little bit about coming soon, right? Because I have to keep people interested to watch. It's so easy to hit next and move on to the next thing. So you have to keep people watching. And so, I try to present what's exciting about the home, what is where I am. Like I try to hey, I'm in Liberty Hill in Central Texas. I'm really close to Austin or wherever I am. But when I get there, I'm walking through, I'm really trying to think, okay, what are my 3 or 4, really big things I'm going to, plug in this home. So the first thing, it's like, okay, the kitchen, hopefully that's nice. That's a super important room. But even when I'm getting to that, so I kind of teased on that a little. When I get to that, I need to now tease the next thing, because if I teased about the kitchen and they see the kitchen, they're satisfied and they're out. But I need to get them to stick around for the next neat thing in the house or something of value I'm going to share later. That could be information. People who are serious about actually buying, they don't know what they need to do. They don't know. So, if it's condos downtown, hey, here's 5 mistakes people make when they're buying condos in downtown Austin. I'm going to share those with you later in the video, like whatever topic that might be, right? So if someone is actually genuinely interested in that, they're going to want to know what that information is. So they're going to watch a little bit longer. Now they could speed up or flip ahead. That's fine too, but a lot of people will just keep watching. But so that's what I'm thinking about, is what am I going to do? How am I going to keep them engaged? And then, that's kind of the first thing.
Yeah,
and then,
absolutely. Real quick, Seth, just to back up, what you did in the beginning is you just did one long shot going through the home, right? It's not multiple takes. It's not like you're
True.
taking the kitchen, then you're going
Oh
to the
yeah.
bedroom. You're just literally on a gimbal using your
Yeah.
phone. You're just starting at the front of the house,
Correct.
walk in through the front door, and it's one long video,
Yeah.
20 minutes long, that you record. And then when you go back home, you do a voiceover over top of that footage. Is that right?
So most of them I do voiceovers at home. I'm now trying to follow your lead on it and miking up and doing my best to talk through in real time. Um, and so I'm trying to work through that so that they take less time, you know.
Yeah.
But in the beginning, you know, I think you're going to do a lot better doing a voiceover because it's so easy, you know, whatever platform, you know, whatever editing software you're using, you know, it's like you're going to say your intro, like, oh, I didn't really like that. I'm going to back up and redo it. I'm going to back up and redo it. Now, you don't want to let perfection be the enemy of getting it done, but, you know, you want it to be as good as you can do it with, you know, and then, but still get it done. So you got to stay on your schedule, but, you know, try, obviously you want them to be good, right? You
Yeah.
know, if it sounds boring, you know, nobody's going to want to watch that.
Yeah, absolutely. And just so everybody knows, what we're talking about is doing a voiceover at home. So you just use like Adobe Premiere Pro or Final Cut or CapCut or any of the editing software. It's super easy. And you just click the record button, and the footage that you took earlier in the day plays, and you just talk over top. And then that's a
Yeah.
voiceover. And that is great for quality content because you can mess up, you can go back to where you messed up, record over top. You can pause the video and kind of think about what you're going to say, or fast forward through the video, kind of see where you're going. So you can be like, hey, we're about to go here. We're about to go there. We're about to see this. Wait until you see this later on in the video. You can do things that keep people on the video. The problem with that, like Seth's mentioning, is it takes a lot of time, right? And so what Seth and I have tried out, and it's actually Seth's idea that he mentioned to me about 6 weeks ago. We're still a little bit early on it, but it's working so far, is in the first few minutes of the video, we don't say anything while we're recording the video. And it's because we're going to do a voiceover on that first 3 minutes. But then the remainder of the video, minute 3 to like minute 25, we talk right on the spot. So we narrate right on the spot because at that point in the video, most people that are on the video 3 minutes in, they're probably going to stay on it. And you can see that in your audience retention of how many people are clicking off. A lot of people click off in the beginning and then it starts to level off. For my audience, as well as Seth's, I think around 90 to 120 seconds, it starts to level off. And so that's where we really focus in on that first 3 minutes of great audio and usually doing a voiceover. Is that what you've done recently, Seth? Are you just doing
So,
narration all the entire time?
so I will try to do the voice on site for the whole thing.
Yeah.
And then, you know, the beginning is super important. So I'm gonna, you know, quite often record over that when I get home and improve it. But if I thought it was good enough, I'll leave it, you know,
Oh,
but
interesting. Okay.
yeah, so I'll do it. I'll give it a shot, and I may even restart once or twice. But I got to get through this tour, and you know, but even if you mess up, you know, 20 minutes in, you have voiceover. Like you can go back later and just, you know, maybe make a note. Like I have to watch the whole video to do this when I get home. So I guess I could get better at, hey, I'm gonna mark down the moments where I know I need to voice over later.
Yeah.
So, you know, I've only been doing that probably about a month or so
Yeah.
with the microphone. And it's a game changer. Once you get busier and you're getting lots of leads and working clients, you have to maintain the videos because that's the golden goose, right? That's giving you all the business. And so you have to maintain that, but you also have to service your clients. So you're starting to, you know, get squeezed on time more and more. So you need to get more efficient. But in the beginning, you know, if your business isn't good, you've got nothing but time. So you really, you know, you really have no excuse, honestly, to get the videos done. You just have to put in the time and stop, you know, doom scrolling on whatever platform you like.
Yeah, exactly.
And can I add another thing?
Yeah, go ahead, Tom.
So there's a woman named Amber Vilhauer who's got this book called Infinite Impact. One of her things when she's making decisions is she's got an avatar named Heather, that when she does a video, she's talking to Heather. And so that's what I've done. I've got Lori, who's 43, divorced mother of two, who doesn't like to ask questions. And so I'm focused on asking or speaking specifically to a person, because otherwise I think we get this big crowd in our heads, or at least I do, and I'm going, oh, okay, hey guys, with whatever, instead of just focusing in on a person. And that way it's more intimate feeling, and you're more focused on what that message should be instead of trying to be everything, trying to sound like, Ian or Seth or whoever.
It's such a good point, Tom. And I can't say how that revolutionized my business early on when Jeremy and Ian told me that. It's like when I always have this crazy idea, like, oh, I'm getting leads. Maybe I should do this. Maybe I should hire a videographer, make the video very flashy. I'll never forget it. Ian, who's on this call, said, is that what your audience wants? And I said, and I laughed because I knew exactly what he was getting at. My audience is software engineers. They don't want flashy. They want detailed walkthroughs that shares everything. They want to talk Excel sheets and numbers. And so Tom's exactly right. You have to know exactly what you're talking, who you're talking to. You also need to know exactly their language, what's motivating them, right? I always tell people we're not selling houses, we're selling something that the house gets this person, right? For my audience, it gets them Thanksgiving, Christmas, holidays with all their family at their house. Right now, they're in an apartment on the West Coast. They can't have anybody over for the holidays. They can barely fit more than 5 people in their apartment, right? But what I'm getting them here in Texas is I'm getting them in that experience of housing all their family, and that is their dream. That is their American dream, and that's what I'm selling every time I tour this house. And Tom, sometimes I don't do that. Sometimes I go through a house and I'm like, I got a million things on my mind. I got to go pick up my kids after, and I just go through the motions, and those videos are awful. But when I tap into those emotions, I really get more engagement, and that's when my channel takes off. Seth, I feel like we just talked about that a few weeks ago. How did you tap into the emotional connection that you're trying to establish with your audience?
So, for one, I would say as you get later in the video, this is at least what I do. I get later in the video, like you said, your audience is now more stable, meaning, you may only have 30% left, but they're going to most likely watch either for a few more minutes or to the end or whatever. So this is the point now where I have an opportunity to connect with them, to, on one hand, share with them valuable information, connect with them, talk about things that I know that they're looking for. So in my case, I have folks who are, if you're wanting to move from, say Seattle, Washington, to getting a ranch of sorts or acreage property in Texas, there's something more than the physical structure or land that you're looking for. You're looking for more, freedom, more space away from, people bothering you all the time, So there's a bigger thing that, is common across my viewers, right? And so I hone in on those things. Like, I said, hey, I know you guys want to see the shop that's coming. And I know for some of you guys, the shop is even more important than the house. And this one is not going to disappoint because it's incredible. So you gotta stick around for the shop coming. So whatever it is, it's not just saying like, I could point out that this house has the most amazing, I don't know, energy efficiency, right? And I'm going to tell you how amazing the energy efficiency is. That my clients generally don't care about that. Okay. So I'm not going to tease that because that's not what my client cares about. It may matter more to Raj's client, because they're focused on numbers. They want to know exactly how much their utilities are going to be. And it's just different, right? So you need to know your audience and connect with them, what they care about. And that's where I feel like, if you hone in on what you like and speak to, that, you're going to find people with like interests, and that's fine. It may be that your audience is different than you. That, I guess that's fine, but I think it works out better if there's a connection.
Yeah, I think relatability is important. And I want to emphasize something there because that was absolute gold. Seth talked about a workshop coming up later on in the video. He knows that hits some sort of emotional component for his audience. What does that look like for you? For everybody here, drop in the chat if you have an idea of your target audience. What do they want to see that you can kind of dangle as a carrot that's coming up later on in the video that keeps them on the video? What Seth just said is the secret to YouTube. When I've watched hundreds and hundreds of channels now over the last couple years, and I've been studying this for 5 years. In fact, when I started YouTube, I ruptured my Achilles tendon and I was in a boot for months, and I just sat on the couch all day because I couldn't move. I didn't want to re-rupture my Achilles tendon, and I watched YouTube all day long. I knew every YouTuber in my market, and what I found is 99% of people do not have an audience retention tactic. There's nothing that's keeping their audience on the video. So think about that for a second. What will keep your audience on the video? That's definitely one of the secrets here. And then another secret I got to talk about is Seth talked about it being a grind in the beginning. And I want to show you what that grind looks like, because I always tell people that you have to keep posting consistently in the beginning. And then once you hit multiple inflection points, your channel takes off. It doesn't matter as much. It's more about connecting with your audience emotionally. But it all starts first with this. Let me show you. And let me know if the sound doesn't come on, but it should. Hey, if you guys are ever looking to save money at a conference, you got a hotel room, you want to split the cost with Seth Koppel, don't do it. This is what he does at midnight.
Hi everyone, Seth Koppel here with another stunning model home tour. And today we are in Georgetown, just north of Austin, in the subdivision.
Can't make it up. That is Seth at midnight, the night before a conference starts. I just wanted to split the cost. And as much as I make fun of it, I was so happy to see him do that, because he had to get content out the very next day or something like that. And he was up at midnight doing that. So that's the consistency factor that I think you got to press forward with. But, you know, doing the voiceovers, narrating on the spot, that's why Seth and I are always talking about it, because it's about having good content, but also being efficient and getting content out.
And do you
Seth,
post at a specific time? Like
yeah,
I posted 7:05 and I don't know why. I just chose it.
Seth, you take that.
Yes, for over a year, my schedule was Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. It's just what I picked. There may or may not be, I'm sure there's some, you know, studies on different things that when is best. You may experiment and figure that out, but I just picked those times and stuck with it. And then, you know, like Rod said, now for a while I switched once my videos are getting longer and longer. And because at that time, I think my videos were probably about 15 minutes and I struggled to talk for 15 minutes. Now I struggle to shut up for 30-minute, 40-minute, 60-minute videos. And I run out of time at the end. I'm like, hey, I'm sorry, I got to stop. And if you want more information on this, reach out to me. But yeah, I did one. It was over an hour, and it's doing pretty well. But yeah, it's crazy. But I did, yeah, I would do it at 9 a.m., something like that. Yeah, but there may be some secret sauce to that. I think at the end of the day, the two biggest metrics that I've learned from the guys is click-through rate on your thumbnail and average view duration. And so if you can focus on those two things, you know, there's a good chance you can figure out what's going to work for you and for your audience.
Yeah, 100%. Anybody else have any questions? Unmute or just drop them in the chat. Happy to answer them here. Seth, we talked about tactics of like audience retention, the hook at the beginning before audience retention, and then connecting with your audience emotionally. What do you think you're doing now to convert your audience into leads? Like, while
Yeah.
John, I'm sorry, I'll get to you in a second. I didn't see your hand raised. Tell me, Seth, how do you get people to reach out to you? Where's the conversion?
So first off, I think I learned from Sharon, you know, I wasn't offering any call to action or carrot of sorts, a reason for people to reach out to me in the beginning. And I said, okay, well, that's dumb. I should offer something, why are people going to reach out? Right. So, there's a bunch of different things you could offer that people want. You got to figure out what might be valuable to your viewer. Right. So if, it could be very specific to the house you're going through or the topic you're talking about, hey, if you like the floor plan, reach out. I've got the floor plan. I've got a list of upgrades for this house. Like that seems fairly straightforward, but it could be something more general, that might appeal to people, even if they don't like the house you're in. And that I think is probably better because how many people are going to fall in love with the one specific house and really be considering it? Very few. So it's better to offer something that is more general, like, something related to, hey, you want to know, you could come up with these things pretty easily, like whatever fits for your channel. Like for me, I do a lot where people want to buy land and acreage properties. Like, hey, if you want to report on the 12 mistakes people make when buying acreage property, hit me up. I'll send it to you,
Yeah.
So there's some of that. Honestly, though, I think the best leads come in. They've been watching me, and they just already know they want to work with me. And it wasn't a specific carrot that they were looking for. They just knew, and they're basically like, hey, we've been watching you for a while. Do you think you have time to work with us? Like it's unbelievable to me, having been a realtor for many, many years, to get leads of this quality. That's nothing I've ever experienced before. It's like we used to covet, and I say used to, we still do covet referrals. Referrals are awesome, especially from past clients. But even they are not as good as a YouTube lead who has watched me, listen to me for hours. Like it's insane. And they already know they want to work with me. I can't even tell you why. Like, I'm just like, I don't know.
Yeah, it's because you're good in these home tours with connecting with them on a level that nobody else is connecting with, right? Because I remember, Seth, very early on, you're getting thousands of views. You're like, but my phone's not ringing. And I was just talking about like conversion happens when you connect with them at a different level.
Yeah.
And when that started to happen, people started reaching out, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And, when you're going to shoot a video, like I've now figured out, I could see a listing and I look at it and I look at, certain things about it. And I'll say, okay, this one can do really well. And then I see other ones and I'm like, this will do okay, and my tendency is to not want to do those second ones because they're not going to be my ones that are hitting 40,000 views and 50,000 views. But what I've noticed is a lot of the people who are calling, it's like, oh, I was watching this video on this property. I was watching this one. They're usually not the biggest ones, So even though one video got me 40,000 views, it was a video that had 800 views or 2,000 views that I'm getting more leads on, which is weird. But I'm sure Raj can explain why that is, but I'm just saying, like, there are opportunities to connect with your audience. They may be less flashy and less attractive properties than the one that was 6 million or 3 million, but they're more realistic for more people, I think, right? So you have to funnel people down from the big, top of funnel. I'm going to get 40,000 views on this amazing, lakefront property that's, $10 million. A lot of people watch that. How many people could actually buy that?
Yeah.
Not many, right? But then you have to then try to, so like what's amazing about this whole thing is, and I would just say this, like you guys, if you're new to this, if you haven't already been crushing it on YouTube, y'all need to get a mentor to work with you week in, week out, because, we're giving you a lot of value in this video, if I do say so myself. Like this is gold, but it's not enough. Like you need to have a mentor who works with you week in, week out. Like if you don't have that, I just don't see how I would have, there's no way I could have gotten to where I am without, Raj and Ian and Jeremy and several other people who've helped me along the way. It's just I don't see how it's possible. You know, I've had so many questions and so many moments where I'm like, oh, what do I do here? What do I do there? And you know, there's just too much noise out there in the stratosphere of watching other people's advice on YouTube, videos. Like it's BS, but
Yeah, we've gotten tacos a lot, right? A lot of lunch tacos and getting
yeah,
together.
or phone
So I got
calls in the
some,
middle of the night. Yeah.
yeah, I got some stuff to add to that, but I want to move to John. John, feel free to unmute and let's get to your question.
Yeah, thanks, guys. A lot of amazing information here. So I'm in Charleston, and no one's really doing anything with like land. Seth, you're not doing just land, you're doing homes, but you're homes with land. So it's sort of like like a niche question because um, I'm reading your bio here, basically your description. Greenbelt big lot, 1 to 5 acres, beautiful custom home, or 10 to 100 acre farm. So you're kind of like, you could have a family of three, 3 kids, they got 3 kids, they want 2 acres, want a beautiful custom home, executive level individual, maybe they're in something like that, buying that house. Or you could have some guy who's like, I want land so I can go hunt, I can do whatever, I can play with my toys, that type of thing. So you've got kind of 2 people. And I was looking at Charleston as an example, and there is 58 pieces of land for sale that are over 1 acre that have waterfront or shallow water access, right? No one's doing videos on vacant lands with water access, or 10 acres vacant land. There's 90 pieces of land available. Some you could hunt on, some you could build on, some you could develop on. So my question would be, if I were to pivot and I started focusing on the land, and let's say I did land that was over 10 acres in the Charleston area, would you focus on land that could be developed, or would you focus on land that maybe someone's just going to go and buy for a family compound? Because that happens too. Because you seem to be hitting 2 different types of people.
Yeah, I think yeah, you don't have to be so narrow in my opinion, but I think there should be somehow a connection. The people who there's going to be variety. I mean, they're not exactly the same person, right? But someone who likes to look at land, they may say, well, man, that 10 acres is nice, but yeah, I really only need 2, but that's still the same person of sorts, right? Or they're at least connected, but you're not going to go do land of 10 acres and then also do downtown condos like that. Those are not really connected, so I think you can have a range of things. So I think the answer to what you're saying is, yeah, I think that sounds amazing. Go do it,
I would also add to that, John, real quick. I think the idea here with the home tours is we're doing the whole like MTV cribs in the 90s, right? People want to see sick houses. And then early 2000s, HGTV just completely took off because people want to see houses. They want to see makeovers. They want to see remodels, all that stuff. So I think there is an element of showing a house so people can get lost in imagining that house. But I think you have to take yourself out of the video, because I've seen your videos, John. I think they're good. I think you have decent tactics in some parts, but sometimes like I've seen some of your videos where it's you in the corner. I don't think they're getting lost in imagination of being in the house when they constantly see you. I'm not saying don't put yourself in the video. Seth and I do put ourselves in some of the videos, but it's like less than 1% of the video. It's usually like middle way through or end of the video. We'll put it on us, but we want them getting lost in imagination. When they get lost in imagination, they watch the entire home tour and then they get bought into us. If that makes sense.
It's like touring a stage property versus someone with all their stuff in there and their oversized couches and all their crap everywhere. You're going to probably watch a stage property more in a way.
Yes, 100%. And then I'm dropping some links in the chat of if you want, access to a group. I have a Real Academy class where we do faceless home tours. I'm sure I'll have Seth on there one of these days. I do that once a month. And then if you go to get my free blueprint on facelessHomeTours.com, I actually went to a house and I show you how to do the home tour. So you'll get that free blueprint. And then when it's cloudy and it's rainy here in Austin, I do pop-up Zoom calls. So I'll notify you via email when we do pop-up Zoom calls. And I would love to discuss this with everyone here. Because just like Seth was mentioning, everybody can carve out a niche, but that niche doesn't just show itself. Like, I wish it was that easy, or maybe not. If it was that easy, then everybody would be doing it. The niche takes some time to discover it, but once you discover it, the YouTube algorithm shows you exactly what that niche is, right? And I think Seth's shaking his head because when his channel hit that first inflection point, he knew exactly what he wanted to lean in on. He called me and he was like, I think it's this. I'm going to go after it. And he did it. And now here we are a year later, and he's getting listings that are multi-million dollars that are acreage properties, because nobody can market that property like Seth can. So I think you just need to try to figure out how to find that niche. That's the big secret. Seth, you got anything else to add to that?
Yeah, I was going to go back to what you just said to John about, you know, his videos and not picking on you, John, but we see this a lot. And in the beginning, when I did some of my early videos, I was like, hey, Raj, what did you think of that? What did you think of this? And he's like, look, Seth, no offense, but nobody cares. And I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, nobody cares about you. They care about themselves and what's in it for me. What's in it for me? So that was hard. I mean, that was like, what the heck, Raj? Like, don't they care about me? They want to know about me. They want to know why I'm awesome, you know, and, you know, like at some point you do need to share like, a couple of credentials here or there, but honestly, you really don't, because if you're talking for 20 minutes about real estate, people can tell. Like, people can tell that you know your stuff. And I think in the beginning I was like on camera more and this and that, and people are not tuning in to look at me. Like, they are tuning in because of the properties, of beautiful properties, maybe for some of the information I'm sharing. But, and then the flip side of that, or to add to that, I think I continually try to challenge myself and say, how can I give more to my viewer? How can I be more generous to my viewer? And that's just something like, not even just my viewer, like as a life worldview, like, how can I be more generous and give more? Because when I can give more, whether that's to realtors who I'm helping or clients I'm working with or on my channel, people love that, you know? And if people could sense that you're just doing this to get a deal, then it's a commercial. And who wants to watch commercials? Like, you know, that's why there's the next button all over the place. And so you have to make sure you're not a commercial, and just give value.
Seth, can I ask you a follow-up then on that? Because
100%.
do you think that YouTube in general is possibly like regional in this aspect, where if I'm going to move to Texas and I want land and space, like what you're selling, they're moving there because they probably want the land and space, and an area like, and that's why you're crushing it. You know, you're promoting that, and like in a place like Charleston, people might have heard about Charleston. It's beautiful, the food scene, the beaches, whatever. They're moving to Charleston. They want to get down south. So they don't really care maybe what the inside of a house looks like. They want to see like, well, what is Charleston? Where do the little towns look like? What do the beaches look like? What are the things to do?
Yeah.
Like, would that maybe work out better? Because the people who crush it here in Charleston do talking head, informational, this is that type of video. And they seem to do better, and I don't see many home tour channels. That's why I did the home tour, because they weren't out there. But I think after doing it, people want to learn more about the whole area, because I live 8 minutes from downtown and 15 minutes from the beach, and so you know what I mean. Instead of looking at the inside of a house, I don't know. Thoughts on that?
I think they're both amazing opportunities. I don't, you know, they're different, right? So you may get people at different stages of their search process. You know, maybe you're getting people who, you might get people on that, you know, you're going to probably get some people on that channel who are literally just looking for a weekend getaway and they're not moving there. And that's fine. You know, they're going to help your views. They're going to help your channel. You're going to probably get people very early on, but you need to, I think, then have some down funnel to move them to something closer to actually valuable information related to real estate and buying property. Because just because you know where there's a cool coffee shop doesn't mean you're a valuable source for real estate information.
And that was my
Absolutely.
point of doing the home tour in Charleston, like a specific type of house. I wanted to try and get the people that were further down the funnel that were like, I'm already committed to moving to Charleston. It just didn't really do much of anything. And I've talked to the people that do the talking head, and they're getting a lot more people that are considering the move. So it's kind of like,
Yeah.
what side do you want? You know what I mean? Like trying to find that
Yeah.
people.
There's an element, John, of combining both. And so I haven't done this because I sell most of the suburbs. So I'm not going to be like, hey, later on, I'm going to show you a Chipotle. Like everybody knows what a Chipotle looks like, right? So it's just not going to work for my channel. But I think for your channel, I think you could absolutely combine both. Where like if I'm starting a video for you, John, I would start with the house. It would be a home tour with just the house as the thumbnail. And I would say, I'm going to show you in this video what 5 minutes from the beach looks like under $500,000. You get a single family house, you get a big backyard for your dog, but most importantly, you can walk to the beach every single day. And at the end of the video, I'm going to show you one of the best taco trucks that's right at the beach that so many people are raving about that just came here a few months ago. Now we're getting into blah, blah, blah. And it's just like, now I just roped in my viewer. It's high energy. I would put a shot of the house, shot of the house, shot of the kitchen, shot of the backyard. Then I would put a shot of the beach, shot of you enjoying taco. I'm saying tacos because in Texas, we always have tacos. But you would do a shot of you taking a bite of something. And all I would do is I would do a home tour. And at the end of the video, I would go to that taco truck and I would sit down and with somebody else, I would talk about life living on the beach. And so your home tour maybe is 10 to 12 minutes long, but then for 10 minutes at the end, you're just chatting about what life is like. So it's lifestyle and it's house. And that could work really well. I've seen other people do that in other markets, and it's they're selling the lifestyle, but the house is just a way to rope their attention.
And you would do like the lifestyle last and not first, like the house is the point, the lifestyle is the focus point at the end, or
I would try out 10 one way, 10 the other,
the other
and see
way,
what
yeah.
works. Let the algorithm choose.
Cool. I appreciate it. I'm done. If anyone else wants to talk, please. I don't want to take up more.
No,
questions.
that's really good. Please, if anybody, actually, I don't know if I said this, but unmute. This is super casual. It's Agent Tactics. We want you to unmute and interject whenever possible. Seth, that sounds like we should do that when we go out to an area, right? We should do the barbecue place in Liberty Hill and just chat about it and put it at one of the end of the videos and see if it works, right? Like, guys, if people drop off, you'll see it in your audience retention. It's like Seth and I eating barbecue at the end and it drops. It's like, okay, I'm probably not going to do that anymore. But what will happen is you'll see an uptick. And what's funny is I told this to Seth pretty early on. I got an uptick in my audience retention, meaning people are replaying the video at a part. And it was when I entered a bathroom and it caught my reflection in the mirror of the bathroom. So people, I guess, wanted to see what I look like because it's a faceless home tour. And I was like, oh, I should probably lean in on that. And so I started putting myself in the videos just briefly, just as a way to kind of show people who I am, but also show them something of value. Seth, we got a couple more minutes left. Any closing thoughts here?
Yeah, I think, John, what you brought up as a different idea, like 100%, like we are giving you just a couple of ideas of what Raj does, what I do. But I think to some extent, the idea is anything that you want to do that gets you to also, in my opinion, share information about your area and about real estate. But specific than that, like we talked about, I think it should be a niche. But the idea itself and what the format is, and I mean, the sky's the limit, do something that no one else is doing, or do something that, in a different way that someone did in a different city. Go for it. Like, try it out, maybe, but like, maybe I guess one question I'll ask for Raj is like, if someone's trying out, they're starting a new channel, they're trying something out, like, and until they pivot and, like, do they try it for a certain amount of time? Like, I just said, okay, I am going to do videos for 18 months before. I am not going to stop. I am not going to evaluate. I'm not going to consider quitting. That's not going to happen until 18 months. If I did 18 months and I didn't see anything, I was like, okay, well, I'm out, because you can't do it forever. But I was giving it a massive, significant amount of time before just saying, oh, I'm going to quit after, 6 weeks, like, because we know that doesn't happen in 6 weeks usually. But for me, it was a slow evolution to figuring out what I love to do, what people like to watch. And eventually the YouTube was telling me what worked. And I had to lower my own ego and listen finally, and not fight it, but listen and lean into what was working. And also happened to be what I like doing.
Yeah, that's a great closing thought, Seth, because I think your question of like kind of like how much do you try out, it really depends on what your funnel looks like. Now, this is just got a lot of stuff because I was teaching a Faceless Home Tours class at Real Academy. So you can check that out. I dropped a link into the chat here for that. But really what I was talking about in that this past one, and I'll close here, is that past class is you need to have a top of funnel content. I see so many channels and they're only getting like 20 views, 200 views, 50 views, 100 views. They have no top of funnel content. Top of funnel content can go viral. It's something that has entertainment value, meaning 99% of people are watching. They're not serious buyers. They're just watching for entertainment, but you're trying to attract that 1% of buyers. So Seth's got 50,000 views on one video. 1% of those views is 500 people. That's 500 new people to his account that are serious buyers. And then how do you get them to go from that dream property down the funnel? And down the funnel is, this is an avatar property. This is something we feature over and over and over and over and over again, so that we establish ourselves as the expert in that type of property. And when you get people to go from dream property to avatar property, then the conversion is much easier. And this is what we're talking about constantly, is this marketing funnel or content funnel to get people down the funnel to reach out to you and then convert into a client. So that's something that we can try to cover another time, but I want to close it off here because we're a little bit over time. I want to also thank Seth. A lot of people close off when they have something that works for agents. They don't want to tell anybody else about it. But I asked Seth if we could do an event here in Austin. He said yes. Then I asked him if he could do Agent Tactics. He said yes. So drop a 1 in the chat if you got a lot of value from Seth Koppel. And if you want to seek mentorship, talk to people like Seth. Reach out to him. Seth's got a wealth of information, and he just started YouTube last year. I can't say that enough. Reach out to people like Seth. Reach out to people like me, Jeremy Knight, and we'd be happy to help you out, because I'm getting stuff just from talking with Seth. I know he said a lot of stuff about me. I can't tell you how many times I've gotten stuff from Seth from just talking with him, and I've made drastic changes in how I do content because of the things that I've gotten from Seth as well. All right, Seth, anything else you want to close out with?
I know we don't do these things to sell Real Broker and joining Real Broker. And I don't know if maybe everyone on here is already at Real Broker, but I think what you're talking about, this kind of culture of collaboration, like that comes from, either it comes from the company or it comes from Ian and Jeremy, because that is the culture. Like I reached out, well, even to, there's an agent in Tennessee who was doing something, and I didn't know him. He's a, very successful YouTuber and realtor, and he's at Real. And I just reached out to him. I was like, hey, you don't know who I am, but, I'm at Real. Would you help me out? And I mean, absolutely. Like, I was like amazed, like, wow, this guy is like just giving so much valuable information, and it's infectious. Like, so, when you're in that, it's just it's kind of like paying it forward, and just the culture of helping. And I love that about Real. So I'm really grateful.
Yeah, absolutely. And a few shout outs I got to give, and then I'm going to close it out. Shout out to Sean Dardine. She's one of those realtors. I connected Seth with her. Amazing agent out of Arizona, was on Agent Tactics. Rod Allwan's another one. Tom mentioned 2 TikTokers. That's Matt Patullo and Roland Osage out of the Bay Area. Amazing. I've adopted their strategies. Bill Olson's got a great Instagram idea that he's really killing it on. I think you're talking about Matt Magosian in Nashville, who's incredible. Preston Gale out of Dallas. I don't want to give his commissions, but I'll tell you, it's a very large amount from YouTube, has been super giving. And so get in the culture of giving and give back anywhere you can. So thanks, Seth, for giving back. And thanks, everybody, for joining in. I'm seeing a lot of ones in the chat. All right. Hope that helped. Take care.
Thanks, guys.